going on, guys? Welcome to the Essential Scares podcast, the only show that continues to re-ask the question, is it essential? I am your host, Corbin, and with me today, as always, is Alan.
Good evening.
And, of course, Bobby.
Hi, everybody. It's me, Bobby. You all know your favorite character, Bobby, from the hit show Essential Scares.
We are back at you with episode 100 again. Last week, you may have noticed that we didn't get through all 99 previous episodes, and so here we are. We're going to start it off at episode 41 of our previous episodes and hope to get through the rest of it.
I do have a hard out. So.
Well, we've turned many hard outs into soft outs before, and I won't be afraid to do it again.
That's true.
But, before we get into our next movie discussion, Bobby has a spoiler warning.
I do. This will serve as your first, one and only spoiler re-warning for movies from episode 41 to 99. If you do not want those spoilered for you, please skip to the time code provided in our show notes or description for our essential spoiler-free discussion. Spoiler alert, there won't be one this time. Y'all remember there was a movie where we watched a guy in a rubber suit piss on a priest? That was weird, right?
Oh my god.
Alan.
A little behind the scenes here, listeners. I explicitly was like, hey, are we going to do another spoiler warning? Because this is part 2 of an episode. I'm an idiot. That's on me for not realizing, we're going to talk about Rawhead Rex. So, of course, Bobby's going to do a pissing
he pissed on the priest.
Spoiler warning.
And the priest loved it. I'm sorry, the deacon, the vicar, he wasn't actually the priest. And
non-ambiguous religious man. Yeah. He's just a guy.
Rawhead Rex is such a goofy little guy.
Oh, yeah. So, Alan, typically this podcast begins with you telling us about something. And in lieu of that, I would like you to kick us off with Rawhead Rex. So for anybody that didn't listen to last week's episode, what we're doing here is going over our previous 99 movies or TV shows. It's actually just over that. I think it's 102 things that we have reviewed. And rechecking how we feel about the scores and the essentiality to make sure that we weren't too enthralled with something in the moment, or that maybe we didn't overlook something that, months or years later has become quite obvious. With that in mind, Alan, you previously gave Rawhead Rex a 1.5. In fact, we all did. You were one of the ones who said it was not essential, just like me. But Bobby said yes. Now, Alan, a year later, how do you feel about that?
I think I'm still right. 1.5, no. I think it has its moments. There are definitely bits that we all the priest pissing scene really is hilarious.
Right on there, man.
But that's really the only big bit that I had.
His name is Rawhead.
Yeah.
His name is Rawhead.
But yeah,
okay.
I'm holding it 1.5 and no.
Nice. A piece of me wants to give this a worse score because I really wasn't enthralled with this one, and
I could say
this was kind of a weird month of the show for me, and I kind of didn't really like this movie, and I still don't think about it as being very good, but I didn't rewatch it, and I don't think I can justifiably just drop it down to a 1 just because when I think of this movie I don't like it. It probably is a 1.5, so I'm just gonna leave it there and trust year and a half ago Corbin that he was right, but I will reiterate I did not like this movie.
I was decidedly the most into this.
Shocking.
But this movie is absolute dog shit. I'm actually going to take the bold stance and actually drop it down to a 1. But I will reiterate that yes, this movie was a movie that was so bad that it spun off one of the most famous horror franchises of all time. a movie so bad Clive Barker had to take the reins of every other movie that ever had his licensing in it until he couldn't anymore. Yeah, Rawhead Rex is very stupid, but yeah, hella essential, for at least for my lexicon, because we wouldn't have had Hellraiser without it.
Fair. After that, back in April of 2022, we covered Repo, the Genetic Opera, a movie that has really stuck with me. In fact, I would say was the beginning of a little renaissance for the show. Now, at the time, Alan and myself gave this a 3.5 out of 5, and Bobby gave it a 4 with 3 yeses. Bobby, with the highest score, how do you feel?
I think I was looking through a bit of rose-colored glasses. This movie has some faults, has some flaws, but it's a really cool like horror comedy musical. But there's a couple problems with this movie that I was not looking into, that now that I've sat with it for a while, I can sit with, right? It's not particularly well acted, and it's not particularly well sung. The songs are really fun, right? And the movie is a mile a minute laugh riot. But I'm willing to drop it back down to a 3.5 out of 5. I think it's like it's an above average film that succeeds outside of its flaws, but I would say that it's not good because the flaws are still there and they're pretty glaring.
Mm-hmm. Do you keep it
honest with myself? See, here's where I'm at with this.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I would say, yeah, I think it's a yes. But part of me goes, did I think of this movie a single time until I looked at it and went, oh yeah, Repo, that movie kind of kicked ass? No. But also, now that I'm looking at the other movies we did for this month, which was when we were trying out monthly things and we were doing horror musical month, this is quite honestly probably the only real horror musical that I can think of. So the answer is probably still going to be yes, right? Like, so yeah, that's where I'm at with that now.
Okay. Yeah. I totally agree on the yes. I feel exactly the same about the yes as I did at the time, which was that like, and I'm biased in the answer, but I feel like it really is just this perfect little snapshot of the combined culture at the time. And so I hold the yes. And unlike Bobby, I do think about this movie kind of all the time, actually. So I also, I'll hold the score because I agree. I would love to give this a 4, but it's like not objectively good enough, I think. Like the quality just isn't high enough for a 4. But so much about it is just so cool that I'll give it the 3.5. Half a point of that is probably pure bias. But I recognize and I stay.
All of us desperately wishing we could be Gerard Way watching this, like
honestly.
I mean, it's funny you say that. One of my notes is this movie is so My Chemical Romance. I have the notes for this one still. But the thing I want to call attention to is my very last note. I did not love this film as much as I did back in 2009. And that's something that stuck with me when I think of this film. Of course, it's essential. It's like the horror musical. That to me is undebatable. But I actually am going to also drop it down to a 3. So I think I came in and got a little excited during the show and kind of bumped up. So I'm gonna correct that back down to a 3.
Nice. I did get excited and bump up during the show because the score in my notes is a 3. But I get excited just thinking about it, so I figure I'll keep.
You guys take notes for the show?
Yeah, crazy.
I just saw vibes all the time, man. I don't know.
Yeah, I have notes for every episode we've ever done.
Hey,
for Little Shop of Horrors was our next movie that we did. This was episode 43, and we all gave this, I don't know, maybe unfair scores, some of us. Alan gave it a 3.5, Bobby 4.5, myself a 3, with no from Alan, no from me, yes from Bobby. And this is tough because, like, realistically, this probably isn't a 3. And if I'm trying to score things appropriately, as a critic, I guess, I should bump this up, right? And I'm going to do ourselves a favor here and kick Little Shop up to a 4 because I think it is actually a 4. But I'm going to keep the no and I'm going to keep the fact that I know I gave it a 3 because I didn't really enjoy my time with it. And I agree with that still. I don't really have great memories of this movie. When I think of Little Shop, I'm not like, oh, Little Shop of Horrors is so good. But I think the movie is good. I just don't like it. And I probably dropped a point just because it wasn't my personal taste. And that might not be fair. So I give it the 4.
I'm good where I'm at. 3.5. No, I enjoyed Little Shop. I think Little Shop has like obviously the main theme is iconic. Like it's great. It's a Little Shop of Horrors. Yeah,
Little Shop of
and
Horrors.
Steve Martin's character is out of this world great. But those kind of to me are like the high points, and this is very much so a movie for me where I go, yeah, I understand it's a Little Shop. Yeah, I understand it's of a certain minimum quality, but I never really want to watch Little Shop of Horrors. I'd go see the stage show in a heartbeat, but I don't necessarily ever really want to watch the movie.
I feel that.
I'm also going to hold at a 4.5 and a yes. It's fucking Little Shop. Now, will I say, right, there was something about this movie that, again, in hindsight, I still feel that stopped it from being a 5 for me. I don't know what that is, but there was something about this movie that, like, there were bits that felt off, and probably it's because it's the same issue that you have with a 4-hour musical with a 15-minute intermission, right? Having broken down to a 90-ish minute movie, right? Like some stuff gets lost, right? And so it doesn't always work out. And I think what's lost primarily is the legitimate horror movie elements in this horror comedy, right? Like, so like it doesn't quite hit, but it's Little Shop of Horrors, right? Like, music's iconic. The casting of the movie version of this is iconic. Like,
they nail it.
Every great funny person of the 80s is in it, right? Like, it's just so good. So yeah, of course, it's fantastic.
Okay. Next up, Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street, the musical starring everybody's favorite actor, Johnny Depp. We gave this 4s and no's around the board. Alan, where you at?
I'm actually going to go down to a 3.5 and keep my no. Because I think I look back now at these other movies, and I really don't think I can say that Sweeney Todd is better than either of the other two, frankly. I just don't know that. I don't know that I can agree with that. I mean, Sweeney Todd has its own things about it that are kind of different, but I don't really think it's better than either of the other two. So 3.5.
Okay.
And no. Bobby's having an aneurysm.
Yeah, I know. I see it happening.
I'm going to stick with a no because I remember why I said no. Is because it does not necessarily fill the horror niche. Although people put it in there, this movie's never been like this play has never been like horrific, or in the way that this movie it was made. It's not. It's a musical that's like fucked up, but like it's never played scary. The murders aren't scary. It's just gore. But I think that I was probably a bit too smitten by what you guys were saying, because there are issues with this movie. Again, it's the same problem I have with most musical adaptations to film, is unless you do a full ass Les Mis, which I have different issues with Les Mis, Russell Crowe in particular, but I think it's a 4.5. I think it's right there with Little Shop of Horrors. Different issues, but again, it's a well casted movie. Unlike other things, like Johnny Depp actually does like kind of kick ass as Sweeney Todd. Like there's a Helen Bob Carter is really good. Like there's just so much, right? Like, oh my god, yeah. There's a lot going on here that there is to enjoy. So I would say yes. It is unessential, but it is very good.
Okay. I'm just gonna hold at the 4 and a no. I like my score. 4 feels good to me.
Sure.
I agree with past us on the no. But I like my score. I know you guys both adjusted. I'll hold the line. Next up, of course, we had Rocky Horror Picture Show, one of our first Hall of Fame entries in a while. And in fact, I think if you had went in the order that we had originally added them, this might have been like actually the first one. But Rocky Horror Picture Show, 3 fives, 3 yeses. Does anybody want to adjust?
Do it, Coward.
No.
Do it.
And Bobby, Texas Chainsaw, we did like 30 episodes later. So.
Oh wait, I was looking at the 2022 Texas Chainsaw. That's my bad. No, it says it. I'm
97.
looking at
Oh wait,
the 70. The 74.
Oh yeah, no, we did do the 74 one. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was like episode 76.
No, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, it was episode 35.
35.
Oh, that was 2003.
So we're all
anyway. It doesn't matter. The point is anybody going to change their score or not? No, I don't change mine.
No.
All right,
of course.
episode 46, Blood Diner. The man, we have the myth, the machine, Blood Diner, 3.5s all around. Me and Alan with a yes, and Bobby with a no. Bobby is the only dissenter. Do you change?
Of course it's a yes. It's fucking Blood Diner. I fucked up so bad on this by making me go first. Because I was like, I can't say yes to Blood Diner. It doesn't matter how much I loved this movie. I am almost, just based off of love of this movie alone, I am willing. Now, we all have to say it at the same time, this bit, because I don't think any of us are going to say no. But I am willing right now, blood oath with my Nan-Tut boys. Does this movie get the full Hall of Fame? Blood oath. Blood oath.
I can't.
It feels so. It just like
I can't.
No. It feels so right. It feels so right.
But you know. I think that maybe you have an extra level of guilt for being the only one to say no. That you want to overcorrect.
Look.
It's not 5.
No. Yeah.
I can't. On
pure enjoyment alone.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it at a 5, but that doesn't mean it is a 5 out of 5 movie. Like,
but think about it, right? Listen, Ed,
this
Frank,
is a 5 in our hearts, but it's not a true 5.
No,
I can give you that.
I don't know, man. I think very clearly this movie is essential, and I'd like to apologize to Ed and Frank, who did give us this, were the ones who did suggest this movie to us, for not giving it a 5. But I will say, Ed and Frank are both family friends of mine, and had spoken to me at length at my brother's wedding about how much cowards we were for not giving this movie the 5 it deserves. So if my two co-hosts are refusing to have the strength that is required of them, I will be the one to do it. 5 out of 5, absolutely. I don't care. This is record. This is now canon. 5 out of 5. Blood Diner is essential. I don't care if this spikes me to most highly reviewed guy.
Listen, like I think that Blood Diner is an easy essential, right? Because it's an easy yes on essentiality. But and do I think that maybe Blood Diner deserves a bump in score? Yeah, I could see it. To 5, I don't think so. I have been thinking about it. I am willing to give it a 4, but a whole 5. I love Blood Diner. I love it, but it's just not 5.
I'm staying. Yes, 3.5. I'm good with that. To me, that is precisely where Blood Diner sits. I will tell people about this film. They should absolutely watch it, but it's a 3.5 for me.
I guess
Alright.
I will. I'll storm
How
the
did I
beats of
do here?
Iwo all alone then.
You're welcome to it. I'll write about your tales. Episode 47, we talked about Carrie. I believe this was our first Stephen King movie at the time. And Alan and myself gave this a 4.5. Bobby with a 5. Alan being the only one who said no on the essentiality list. Alan, looking at the spreadsheet and thinking to yourself, what was going through my head? Tell me, what was going through your head?
I don't know. Because like I look at that and that feels wrong. I think my score is right. I'm comfortable with a 4.5. I think I can stomach that and be okay with it. But why would I say this isn't essential? That's more the question I'm trying to answer to myself at this point, because it's fucking Carrie.
Yeah.
Like has
dude,
one of the
we
most
tried
iconic
telling you last time.
Yeah.
Yep. Alan's just having the
iconic
conversation
scenes.
with himself now that we had with him last time.
Yeah, of course it's essential. What are we
Okay.
what are we doing here? Of course it is.
I hold my score. 4.5 I like. A yes, I like. I don't really have a lot more to say about Carrie.
I think that I was correct about essentiality, clearly. But I also think I had read Carrie much too recently, the book version, to not give this movie a 5 at the time.
Mm.
And John Travolta is not evil enough in this movie. Enough so that I remember it distinctly. John Travolta was supposed to be like this horribly abusive guy. And he's just like, hey, man, it's me. Man. So, no, it's a 4.5. Like, it's not a perfect movie, although it is damn near close. Damn near close.
Next up, we watched Village of the Damned. This was
Hey,
our that's right. This was our fan suggestion month. This was the third of 4 fan suggestions that we had. Scores and essentiality all over the place. Alan with a 4, Bobby 4.5, myself 3.5. Alan with a yes, the others with a no. I'll go ahead and go first and say that I have no reason to adjust my score at all. I love the 3.5. I love the no. I am keeping it there, and I like old movies quite a lot. I think this movie is good. I think that this movie is memorable, but not enough to be essential.
Now, dear audience, a known thing that we know in this podcast is I am objectively right all the time. But sometimes there's a lesser known fact, is sometimes Corbin is more right all the time. So I'm going to drop this down to a 3.5 as well. I'm sorry, Last. I know you like that 4.5 score, but I am struggling to remember a lot of this movie. What I remember is good, but I don't remember a lot of it. There's a lot of suicide that happens in this movie. I remember like the kids like make people kill themselves a lot. And I think I was very smitten about that because it was a movie from like the 40s or whatever. Smitten's the wrong word.
No, I like smitten.
That works. You do not correct yourself. Is it
Alan?
still a no though?
Yes, of course it's a no.
Yeah.
I'm
Alan,
good
how do you
at
feel?
4.
Uh-huh.
I think that this is an interesting film. I really do, because I think what kind of won me over for calling it a yes at the time, which I'm going to correct to a no now, is I had such low expectations for what this film could even be, frankly, that it blew those out of the water. So I was feeling real generous, because I can't remember a damn reason why I would call this movie essential. It's a good horror film. I think it's interesting. It's worth a watch, but it doesn't need to be in the book of the horror. So no.
Fair. Next up, and finishing off our fan suggestions month, we watched Killer Clowns from Outer Space. One of the
right now.
best horror comedies of all time. So good that Bobby and myself gave it 5s and yes. Alan, however,
it's
hater of all things funny, gave this 3.5. but agreed
Fix
that
it.
it was a yes.
Fix it.
Bobby and I obviously
Fix it
say,
right now.
Alan, why don't you take a few seconds just to tell us what's going through your clown brain right now?
So of course it's essential. It's the Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Don't
I
fucking do
remember talking about how this was the movie I saw growing up in the
Mhm.
rental shop because it was weird and wacky and I was terrified of it. And I never watched it until whenever we watched it for the show.
Last May.
And it is funny. It
Yeah.
is a fun film. But guys, I just can't go to the 5. I'm not with you there.
Jeez.
I can give it the 4.
You're
But
a
I
coward.
can't go. It just doesn't do that for me. I appreciate horror comedy more now than I did then. And let's give me a little credit here. I've grown in the horror comedy arc because if we would have watched this early in the show, I would have given this like a 1.5, and you both know it, 100%.
I'm gonna make you rewatch this for the episode 200 so we can finally get this in the Hall of Fame.
Doing this. The hillbilly from this movie was your favorite character in Ghoulies 2.
That's true.
The great Fausto was the hillbilly in Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Your two favorite horror comedies of all time, and you're not going to give it a 5? You coward! You swine!
It's not there.
You pig! You dirt
Oh
boy!
goodness! Oh my god! All right, episode 50.
It's happening again.
Episode 50, we watched
Corbin,
The
what's happening?
Conjuring. Oh, we watched The Conjuring. Episode 50 was our first landmark episode, and we watched The Conjuring because our very first episode was The Conjuring. At the time, the newest one. The devil made me do it.
So bad.
Now, all three of us gave this a yes, I think for pretty obvious reasons. But our scores were a little more different, with Alan and Bobby at a 2 out of 5, and myself with a 4 out of 5. Now, Alan is waiting, I think, for me to even contemplate changing my score. And I'm sorry to say that there's no chance I change that score.
I cannot.
There's
believe
no
this.
chance
I cannot
changed the
believe
score.
this. I cannot
No way.
believe this. You wouldn't go up to a 5.
Yeah.
And this score is based purely on bias, and you know it. You
This
know
movie
this is a bias.
this movie is better than Blood Diner as a film.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's just like it's okay. So this movie is like such fucking all of the Conjuring movies are such blatant Christian propaganda. Like, and now I see the answer. Now I know why this is.
I assume we're all good with a yes, though.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm
imagine.
fighting.
I actually am going to bump it to a 2.5. I
Got
think
him.
it is average. I think it's average. I think I have to acknowledge that. I think I was being a little harsh on this film unjustifiably because it is just a very mediocre, middle of the road type movie. So I will bump to a 2.5.
Nice.
I am so bored of Conjuring movies.
He's bored just thinking about The Conjuring.
Dude, yes, and like
I'm out here
the
like
fact that
pumped as hell for the next one.
well,
can't
we're
wait.
gonna get to it. We're
Yeah.
gonna get to it. I've learned over time that there are other movies that James Wan has made that I do hate less, and I think part of the reasons why I thought I hated those movies actually has more to do with The Conjuring than it has to do with those movies. So yeah, I'm at a 2 still because man, these movies kind of all suck major ass. I can't wait for us to do Annabelle, and I'm going to make. I'm determined to make Corbin cry a single tear.
You wish. Annabelle is not that good, but the second one is really good. Next up, we watched X from Ty West. We are almost within the last year of episodes at this point. This was episode 41. Now, Alan and Bobby gave this a 4.5, and I gave it a 3.5, and we all gave it no's. And I, in my notes, have this rated at a 3. And what that means, right, is that they talked me up, and I can see with a 4.5 that, you know, the hype was strong, right? And I remember not thinking that this movie was that good. And I really like Ty West, right? And of course, A24, great combo, right? Now, thinking back on this movie and the fact that there's been a prequel and another one on the way.
Yeah.
And I have not bothered to watch the first prequel, Pearl. And
I've heard it's very good, but
I have also. And I'm not really interested in Maxine. And the reason is because I didn't really like X that much, and I certainly didn't 3.5 out of 5 like it. My original score, I think, was much more accurate, 3 out of 5. I'm keeping that score. I do think it's just over average. It's a well-made film, but it's not actually that good, and certainly not what I expect out of Ty West. Honestly, I keep with a no for sure.
I think I became slightly overhyped with this movie because this movie is a 3.5 normally. But before you actually put that score in, there is a difference that does drop this down a half point for me to a 4. But Mia Goth playing both Pearl and Maxine and playing both those characters flawlessly is still a masterpiece.
I didn't even know until we did the show.
Like that in and of itself is just so good. I remembered really enjoying this movie, like being very uncomfortable in this movie, and there was a lot of really fun twists and turns along the way. It's a really good movie. Episode 200, where we look through all of our things and we spend an hour adjusting scores as needed, might make this a yes after I watch Pearl and Maxine, but unfortunately haven't watched those movies yet, so can't really be honest with it. So I'm gonna hold with the no for now.
I'm down to a 4. I got wrapped into the hype on this one for sure. I was very excited for this, and it's still a no. I don't really know. I don't think I'll ever get to a yes on this one, even if Pearl or Maxine are of that caliber. Because I just don't know that this one necessarily has like.
I do actually agree with Bobby on that, and I think that there is the potential for this to become a yes after Maxine comes out, depending on the quality of the trilogy as a whole. But judging it now as a standalone, I think that's where.
Can I take the stand, boys, on this next one?
Yeah. So the next movie we watched
for my crimes, as it's known,
Crimes of the Future, and scores
Bobby,
were
you're not that far behind me.
A 5 out of 5 from Alan, a 4.5 from Bobby, and a 3.5 from myself. 3 no's. Now, Alan famously gave this a 5 because he was new to Cronenberg, and a lot of this movie was new to him. And so I know that he gave it a no because Bobby and I gave it no's, and he, I think, was on the train of like, well, that must be accurate. But despite himself, he did score this 5 out of 5. Alan?
We're going to go to a 3.5. We're going to give it the appropriate score it deserved out the gate. And also no, still. Yeah, this is one that I just didn't know what the fuck I was dealing with, frankly. This is by far, like, was out of my comfort zone. This is probably still, like, I wouldn't say comfort zone's maybe not the best way to phrase it, but, like, it's just, this is a different kind of horror film, and it is not the kind of horror film I've watched before this and even after this, really. So I'm gonna have to go down to a 3.5, which I think is a much more palatable and appropriate score for what that experience of a film was.
Bobby?
I do like these movies. This is like the weird juxtaposition. I do like weird, esoteric, like uncomfortable movies. Yeah, Beyond the Black Rainbow, right, is a perfect example of that. And there's a lot of that here. But there's also this, like, because like it's part of this movie's talking about what does it mean to be human, right? Like, what does it mean what is experience? Like, there's a psychosexual component. There is a component of like talking about like social media and like the art of social media. All of those are very much there, and also like the idea of like, are we stopping ourselves from evolving? Have we reached the peak of human evolution? And would we even allow other things to exist outside of it? Right. And like the theory of there's also this idea of nature of like, what if there's people who eat plastic and like that actually, like, what if there is an intelligent design and like, et cetera, et cetera. There's like so much there to digest. And it's really, really cool in that way. The problem is all of those things cannot possibly fit in a movie together without it being incredibly muddy. And that's what this movie is. It is muddy. And they also put this weird neo-futuristic element in it. And they add like Geiger-esque, like art stylings to it, which is like, why are
That
we doing
chair thing?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah. And on top of this movie being hyped like intensely for it being very, very scary, and like uncomfortable when people walked out of it, right? The reality is there's a scene where they
Babies.
perform an autopsy on a boy, and like that's the scary bit. And I am not, honestly, there's not enough gross out for this. I'm willing to drop it down half a point. I still think ultimately it's still Cronenberg, right? Like there's a lot. I think if he were to make this movie less muddy, it would have very easily been a 5. But this feels like a movie that needed a little bit more editing. Of like, hey, maybe we don't put all of these messaging in there. Like, but yeah,
Is it a no or a
of
yes?
course it's a no. Of course it's a no. Have you heard anybody talk about Crimes of the Future
No,
ever
not even
since
once.
then?
Great act, Gordon.
I hold my score. I hold my essentiality. One of my big points at the time, I remember, was that this movie is good, but it doesn't really do anything new. It feels like a greatest hits of Cronenberg. And I agree with that. And that kind of just doubles down on what Bobby is saying. Like, it kind of feels like he put everything that he wanted in a movie all in one movie. And so it makes it feel like all of his other movies that just focus on like one of those things. You know, he's kind of been doing this for a long time. And he just took everything and put it all in one film. And it just didn't, it is a good movie, but it ultimately doesn't work as well as it could have. So I
Really is. It really is like a new movie with like a new idea, but like conceptually, it is just The Fly and Scanners. Like
exactly. So it's like it's hard to fault it entirely because like the movie is not bad and it's so well acted, but like
yeah,
it's just not amazing.
like, we still need to talk about the stuff I mentioned in the 80s. Like,
yeah, right. I'm not done. You know I'm not done. Next
it's
up,
over when I goddamn say it's over.
we watched Willy's Wonderland. This was episode 53.
Smart.
Alan with a 4 out of 5, Bobby a 3 out of 5, myself 4.5, and 3 no's. I'll start because I had a really high score. I was super hyped on this movie. I really, really liked it. I'll say now it probably isn't a 4.5 actual quality, but I do still really, really like it. So I'm gonna put it at a 4. And I'm gonna hold the essentiality. For various reasons, I don't think this movie could be essential, but it is nice, and I think that it is a wonderful little spot in Nicolas Cage's filmography.
Yeah. This movie owns bones.
Yeah.
Just outright. This movie was a ton of fun. I'm sticking with it. 4 no.
I think I was a little harsh on this movie. Just a little bit harsh on this movie. 3.5 harsh on this movie. I think that as somebody who is an avid Nick Cage fan, avid into Nicolas Cage, love me some Nicolas Cage. I unironically love Nicolas Cage. I think he has a very, very, very underrated acting style. People know him for his freak out, but his subtle moments are also really. He's like a fucking awesome actor. And I was unimpressed by anything that wasn't Nick Cage in this movie. But in hindsight, you just need to sit with that movie and just remember, like, every time Nick Cage is on screen, you're like, this is kind of sick as hell. Like,
exactly.
Yep. Next up, and now we are officially in the second year, right, of the podcast. This is the full second year. Episode 54, The Black Phone.
We were so hyped for this movie.
Alan with a 4, Bobby with a 4, myself with a 3.5. Alan with a no, myself and Bobby with a yes. I am going to go. I don't remember if I read the book before I recorded the episode.
You did.
Okay.
Yeah, we talked about it.
Not book. It was just like a short story. But
Short story, yeah.
I think that the score is probably accurate. I don't think that I 3.5 liked it, but I do think it's probably 3.5 good. And I am going to revise my essential down to a no. This was a movie that I was pretty confident, because of social media hype and hype around the mask and all sorts of stuff, that this was going to be a standout online and for Halloween for years to come. And obviously, it hasn't been years, but it's been one Halloween since then. And I'm sorry to say, but like it just didn't end up having the staying power that I was expecting. I was really we predicted June last year that last Halloween we would see that mask, that outfit all over, and it just didn't even last that long, let alone to now. So this is an easy no for me, but I hold the 3.5.
I'm actually going to mirror your score completely. I think I was overly hyped for this movie, and I wanted it to be good, and it is, right?
Yeah.
But it's not. It's not. Again, it's another one of those things where the book is just straight up better. Like the short story is just straight up better. This is a movie that like suffers from it needing to be like 80 minutes or whatever. Like not like
Yeah.
it needs it, and like I really don't like some of the additional stuff. Like abusive dad does not exist in the book, that did not need to exist in this. Psychic sister kind of exists, right, but
Yeah.
really doesn't. Like, so like there's just some stuff that's like and like they put too neat of a bow on it. So yeah, it's a 3.5 and no.
Yeah.
I'm good. 4
Okay.
no. This is a movie I thoroughly enjoyed. I remember enjoying watching it. I was hyped to see it. But when I remember watching it, I was just like, there's nothing. I mean, this is interesting. It's a cool concept. It marries, like, the setting is cool. It plays with that well. But I just didn't see anything that really was going to make it long-winded. So I'm good
Fair.
with that. 4 and no.
So we're now
think it's
going
an easy
to
one.
take an opportunity to catch up a little time on the episode. We did 3 Jordan Peele movies in a row: Get Out, Us, and Nope. So for Get Out, we had 3 5s, 3 yeses, a Hall of Fame entry. Nobody changes their scores.
Of course not.
They've given
Who
me
would?
they've given me visual confirmation for anybody that's
Yeah,
only
sorry,
listening.
I already. Yeah. Hey, listen, I do the video podcast, so I
Yep.
can do that and be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Easy Hall of Fame entry, and it easily stays. Now here's the one that we didn't enter into the Hall of Fame. Us. This was episode 56. We all gave it 4.5. Bobby and Alan with a yes, myself with a no on Essential. I'm gonna stand exactly where I am, 4.5 and no. I like Us a lot. And I think it's really, really rewatchable, more easily rewatchable even than either of his other 2, because the concept is just a little more straightforward. But I don't think it's better, and I think that especially now, like looking back on his filmography and as we look forward, like I don't think that this is going to be like a standout entry. I don't think it is now, and I don't think it ever will be. So I stay on the no.
I think very much to your point. I'm going to stay with the yes, because this movie stuck with me, like,
Mhm.
in a way. And I was like very sure I was going to give it a 5. I was like, what are we doing? But like, I want to give Us a 5 because other people explained to me that Us, like some of the meanings and the messages behind Us, I think Us is still a little bit too muddy. Again, going back to Crimes of the Future, we talked about, like there's a little bit of like ambiguity,
Mm-hmm.
and a little like it's very much a sophomore showing of like Get Out is so clear, right? And we're gonna see a Nope that Nope is less clear, but in a better way. And I think Us was the first attempt at that didn't work as much. So,
Yeah.
4.5 still, but a yes for me. Yeah, it's just it's fun to watch the journey.
Yeah,
I'm
I
right
agree.
there. I'm keeping my 4.5, keeping my yes. It's funny to even say this is his worst technical entry, because it's like, it's just a hilarious statement to make, but it just is. So
It's so much better than so many like
I know.
Jordan Peele.
it really is.
Like the dude is an auteur of horror, and I want to see if he
Yeah.
makes a drama, how good that's going to be too.
Yeah,
It's gotta
seriously.
be good, right? Like,
Oh, so
well, and it makes sense because he's a comedian. But yeah, like,
Yeah,
they're
absolutely.
So how do we feel about Nope?
Next up, we did Nope, and this one, I think for us was a little bit different because we all saw it in the theater like the Friday or Saturday that it released, and then we recorded like the next day, because we were still releasing episodes on Monday. So I think what happened was we saw it on Friday, recorded Saturday, released on Monday, which was like wild, right? And so we were riding the hype train really high. 3 5s, 3 yeses. Personally, I stay here. I absolutely love
Yeah.
this movie. I think that it is amazing. It is in my mind, it has only gotten better with time. So I
I
keep
saw
right
it
here.
a second time.
Yeah,
it's just as good as you remember it. I'm
Dude,
telling you
it's
that right now.
so good.
I
Like,
saw it with Maggie afterwards, and it's
like one of the major, like, again, talk about clear. Like, this movie has some of the very same themes going back to Crimes of the Future, right? Because we can play these two together now, and I've got clarity. Some of the same themes.
Yeah.
Like, but it's such a and a lot of the same themes. They're talking about a lot of the same shit. But this movie is just so much more clear, and you get it, and you understand, and it makes you think, and that makes you uncomfortable, and it's gross, and it's like, and there's eldritch horror or alien horror,
Exactly.
depending on how you want to look. It's like, oh my god, dude.
The way that he
Like, I
balances,
might like this more than Get Out.
like the horror elements, while also kind of retaining some of that easy watchability from Us. Like, is like he really carries forward a lot of the great filmmaking aspects there. It's just a wonderful movie. Next up we had a game. Our first game since Resident Evil Village, and the most recent game that we've done. This episode is titled, it was episode number G1 because we were going to do more games as an offshoot.
Yeah.
We had ambitiously decided at the time that we do a whole game every quarter. And it's actually only been 3 quarters since then, but we're still on episode G1, so that didn't go so well. Amnesia is a game that we all gave 3s to, and we all said yes. And I'm just going to stay there. Honestly, like, I don't know if I even like the 3, but if I think about the game hard enough, I know that it is a 3, so I'm just gonna leave it there.
I disagree.
It's not. Yeah.
Yep.
Go for it.
Yeah.
It's 2.5, right?
Two
It's
and a
2.5.
half.
It's an average.
I really thought
it's absolutely
about dropping
essential.
it.
It is absolutely essential.
Yeah.
No, it's 2.5.
You see, the reason why you think it's a 3 is because you remember both playing it then and now, and it being like, oh my god, because it was like the first real like horror sim game, right?
Yeah, that
like,
is true.
That got any sort of popularity, right? Which makes it absolutely essential, but like, nah, man, it just ain't, right? Because you know what's just as essential and just as boring of a game? Slender, the first Slender.
Yeah,
right? They're both indie games that, like. Yeah. But at least Slender had a gameplay loop, right? Like you could keep going and keep doing
light torch, run and hide.
Yeah, but you could play rounds of Slender.
I don't like Amnesia, for the record. Like you don't have to convince me that it's good. I don't like it, but I've already said it. I'm not gonna adjust twice in one episode, and I probably agree with previous me. Episode 58, we watched Mad God. This is a movie that we all gave yeses to. Bobby and myself 4.5, Alan 3.5. I really, really love this movie. I actually think about it all the time, and I kind of wish I could give it a 5. But I just don't think that it quite gets there. I think I like it's a tough one for me. And I'm trying to think, like, did Alan talk me down, maybe, from the 5? Or was I at the 4.5 the whole time? And do I think it's better now than I thought it was then? I don't think so, but I do think that I lean even more strongly into the essential category than I did, because it has stuck with me so much. I probably wouldn't give it the 5 because it's just a little bit like too weird at times.
Just do it.
It's like I really want to.
Weird movies can be 5.
I'm going to give it a 5. I'm going to give it a 5.
Okay.
I want the 5.
And guess what?
I'm
going to go ahead and admit
it's a 5. I had to convince myself too much that it wouldn't be 5.
So here's the thing, right? Being objectively right sometimes comes with time, right? And as you can see with convincing Corbin that this movie is in fact a 5, sometimes you have to gestate, right? This movie is the most disgusting piece of art that you will ever watch, but it is art. Like it is pure art. And like I've never seen giant robotic beings eating shit while getting electrocuted and went, that is beautiful, until I saw Mad God. Like, I'm not kidding. That's a scene in this movie. Like, it is showing the beauty in the grotesque, and the there's a certain level of like this like pointlessness of life. Oh, it's just so good. Oh my god, it's so good. Yeah, watch Mad God now. Pause the episode. Watch Mad God now.
So you're bumping to the 5?
Yeah, of course I'm bumping to the 5, Alan. Pay attention.
Yeah, I'm at where I'm at. I'm clarifying for the audience.
You're a coward again. Stop being.
It's a
spoiler
3.5, and it's a yes.
Ugh.
It's just not there for me, guys. I did not enjoy this film one bit.
Alan hates stop motion.
It's
Oh,
art.
so your enjoyment matters now. It didn't matter. It didn't matter with Blood Diner, but now it matters.
It
Interesting.
does matter to some degree.
It's very interesting.
I can agree that it is definitely a piece of art, 100%. But I don't know. I don't know that this is exactly. I don't know that this was necessarily like the greatest thing that should have taken 30 years to come out. Frankly, I just really don't. I don't think that this is really what you should have staked your career on.
Man, hearing Alan stand by the 3.5 makes me feel a lot better about the 5. Actually,
Yeah. You know what else would probably make you feel better is if we just skip back up a good 10 or so episodes and just really consider.
Episode 59, we watched
Damn it.
Prey, the Predator prequel. Alan and Bobby gave this 4.5. I gave it a 5, and we all gave it a yes. And being the only one who gave it a 5, I'm just going to go ahead and go first. And I'm going to stick with the 5. I mean, I can't. I don't think anybody would expect anything less of me. I've watched it since 2 more times, and I love it. Definitely watch it in Comanche if you have the
it's
ability
so much
to
better.
read subtitles. It's just better that way.
I started watching the English version. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't want to watch this.
Yeah.
But like the Comanche version is so much better.
I wish that they had done
seen it in
it
Comanche.
the reverse way and filmed the movie in Comanche and then dubbed English instead. I think that would have been that just would have been that extra little icing on top. But I hold the 5. I hold the yes. It's great. And even further pushing the essential, the reviews and reception of Prey have altered like the Alien movie that's coming out next. And I think that we're going to see like a little modern renaissance of Alien and Predator movies. I can't wait.
I'm also, I think I'm going to hold a 4.5 and a yes as well. There were parts of this movie that I just remember like kind of dragging. There are parts of this movie that felt a bit obvious, but it's one of the better like not to be the anti SGW guy on this podcast, which I often is. It's like it's just a kick-ass movie talking about like egalitarian society and like triumph and stuff like that. It's a really cool survival movie. It's a really cool revenge flick. Like there's a lot to really love about this movie. It's also one of the movies that I always recommend to people, but I only ever recommend the Comanche version, right? And I think that's where the 0.5 comes out, is like that's not exactly the original intent of the movie, right? Or that's not how it's like meant to be viewed by like everybody involved. It's like a director's cut version. It's the better cut, like by a wide margin, right? Because like it's the only difference is everybody in that movie speaks the language you'd expect them to speak, and so it's like super historical in that way. And it's like, God, fuck. And the Frenchmen, like they all speak French. It's like, why didn't you do this in this language? Like it. Yeah. So I think it's a sour grape that I have that keeps it from being a 5 because like I'm only ever gonna watch it that way because like it's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm right at 4.5, and yes, it's great. You should watch it. I just don't think it pushed it over to the 5 for me.
Okay. It would have if they would have done it the way.
Honestly, I would have appreciated. I've always for me, I always wish media just does that anyway because it's a more interesting take.
Well, okay, so like think about it because like nobody could be mad. Like no idiot loser could be mad about an American movie.
Like
because it's an American language.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
we speak it here.
Imagine you're playing
we
like
speak it.
Assassin's Creed and you're in the middle of the Middle East in the Dark Ages. Like, no one should be speaking English. No, should be Latin everywhere or Arabic. That's all we should be hearing.
One of the best parts about the Assassin's Creed movie was when they did the past parts, and in Spain they all just spoke Spanish.
And of course.
You watched that movie?
Of course I watched that movie.
Did.
It's Assassin's Creed. It's Michael Fassbender. Of course I watched it. I watched it more than once. Next up, we watched Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. This is a movie that we
Most
all
predictable movie on this list.
We all said no to. Alan gave it a 2.5. Bobby and I gave it a 3.
Are we old?
So here's the thing.
I'm staying across the board.
I feel like this is old man. This is grandpa corner. This is uncle corner.
I am gonna adjust a little bit, okay? With the power of hindsight and the power of seeing a little bit more about what this movie has actually done culturally, I am going to adjust. I don't think that the movie is better than a 3. I will actually stay there, but I'm going to change it to a yes. I think this movie actually is essential, and not for me, but for that next generation of horror fans. Like, I see this movie coming up all the time, and even still a year later, like, this movie comes up all the time, and I don't think that it is there on merit, but I think it is there on culture. Yeah, because but that's just how it is, right? So
I hear that. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
I hear you,
mm-hmm.
and there's a part of me that really wants to, but I don't think it will actually stand the test of time.
Mm-hmm.
I think most people will remember the first real horror movie franchise that comes out of this, but I think this is like, it's going to be people like, actually, I think the first horror movie I actually saw was Bodies, 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 but this was what really got me into it.
Sure.
And I'm cool to actually stick with the 3. There's parts of this movie that I really enjoyed, and it is a fairly good horror comedy.
Yep. I
can't help but continue to get the sense that, because like its whole thing was like, this movie's lit by iPhones. It's not going to really stand the test of time. Listen, I've been wrong clearly a lot throughout the last 100 episodes, so don't take it for what it is, but that's where I'm at.
All right. Next up, VHS 94.
Well, we actually, Ellen, how do you feel about Bodies?
Oh yeah,
Bodies,
true.
Bodies?
Yeah. I stayed 2.5, 0, and no.
Okay. VHS 94, 3 out of 5 from Alan and Bobby, 3.5 out of 5 from myself. All 3 no's. I'm gonna stay. 3.5. No, I like it. I stay.
I can't actually remember the difference between VHS 94 and 99.
I'm having the same problem. They are kind of running together for me.
Was 94 the one with camera head, or is that 99?
With camera head?
Yes.
The Doom sequence?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was 94 is this one, is that one, and is also the one with the morgue sequence.
Oh, but the morgue sequence was so good. But everybody hates the morgue sequence, which is
I know, but I love it.
Dude, yeah. Is 94 also the one with like the cop procedural through
it is
meta narrative?
Yep.
Which I also didn't hate. I think I'm just staying. Because like I'm remembering like the ones that people liked, I hated. I remember having this. We're having this conversation again. Yep. We're good.
All right. Next up, one of the lowest rated things that we have ever reviewed, the Resident Evil 2022 Netflix TV show, R.I.P. Lance Reddick, 0.5 out of 5 in no from all 3 of us. I will stay at 0.5. I'll stay. It isn't good. It is not good.
Did we not? Oh, we did Raccoon City. Okay, cool. This is the worst thing we've actually reviewed. This and Infinite Darkness are the 2 worst things we've actually ever reviewed on this, but I actually think this is worse. So it's a 0 for me. This is the single worst thing. Like, I hated like unironically, I felt some resentment to you, Corbin, when we first we watched this, because I was like, I watched the first episode and I'm like, I remember texting our group chat like repeat like, why the fuck do I have to keep watching this? Like it was just
It was quite fun.
It
was
was
great
the
because it was so
worst.
long too. It was like 8 episodes.
And they were all an hour long.
Yeah.
Like, and I just remember
all
sitting there
bad.
like, this is, and every time a character became like, I kind of like this character, they just killed them. They just killed them, and then they stopped giving a shit about you liking the characters, and then they were like, by the way, I'm getting married to my pregnant girlfriend, and then I was like, okay, so she's dead, and then she dies immediately. It's like, fucking duh, dude. Like, it was so bad, and every episode had like 5 ex machinas. I feel like that's this actress's problem. It's not that she's like the main actress, the lady whose name escapes me, but she's also was in that game that everybody hated. Like, I feel like she's like in a movie, like either it's the way she acts or what she's typecast into is the most unlikable character ever. Sorry, that's it. 0, 0, just a flat 0.
I actually am going to agree with the 0. And we're going to have to, this is going to come back up later. No.
Okay.
I think we can pretty much, this next one.
This is going to come up.
Oh, you mean The Exorcist? Probably the greatest horror movie of all time? You mean The Exorcist? Wow, yeah.
Yeah, it's just the Hall of Famer.
So
That's just what
Exorcist, 3 5s, 3 yeses. After that, we talked about The Purge, the original.
5.
Alan gave it a 5. Bobby and I with 4s, 3 yeses. I stand. I think this is a very good movie, but not quite more than a 4.
I was shocked.
An easy yes.
Yeah. I was honestly shocked how much I like The Purge. But yeah, it's a 4.
Yeah.
To me, I absolutely stand.
Okay.
I think that this movie earns every bit of it. I think this is the spawn of a franchise that we may not love, but I do think that what this film does on its own merits is phenomenal.
I probably do love this franchise.
I am a mark for alternative history. I just am. That's just something that works for me, and this just does it. So
that is a weird place to be in.
Because I like alternate history too. That's great. What if the Nazis won? Ha 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 ha.
See,
VHS 2012 was our next movie. Alan and myself 4.5. Bobby with a 4. 3 yeses.
Was this one Ratma?
This is that's VHS 94. Yeah, is it 94 or 99? It was one of those. It was one of the newer ones.
Yeah.
Either way, I hold the 4.5. I've seen this movie many times, and I think it's very, very good. But not every short is good, and so it's not quite a 5 for me. But absolutely essential. This is a storied modern franchise of the last decade, and I think it deserves to be essential. So 4.5 with a yes.
I'm gonna stick with the 4. Running in true Bobby fashion with the VHS movies, I liked the ones that people apparently didn't like.
Fair.
Yeah. I'm good with past Alan.
Okay. Yeah. Next up, another one that we didn't super love, My Best Friend's Exorcism. A movie that Alan gave a 1.5, and Bobby gave a 0.5, and I gave a 1. This is a movie based on a Grady Hendrix novel. I have since learned that I do not like Grady Hendrix. I don't like his books. I don't like his movies. I hold the 1 because I don't actually think it's as bad as as much as I didn't like it. And definitely a no. But I urge you not to watch this movie.
I'm actually willing to raise it to a 1.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it. I think it's actually a competently shot movie, and there are some funny little bits. It isn't some of the worst movies I've ever watched on this, but it's also just
Yeah.
It's pretty bad, actually. It's worse than It's like, That's a 1. A 1 is a Yeah.
I never want to watch this film again, but it's not like complete garbage.
Yeah.
So I'm good where I'm at. A 1.5 and a no.
Okay. Next up,
Hellraiser.
Hellraiser 2022. a 3 from me and from Alan, a 4 from Bobby, 3 no's. Bobby, you're the Hellraiser guy. You gave it the highest score.
Yeah.
Where are we at?
Yeah.
Where are we at?
So objectively, right? I think this movie, honestly, I think it's a 0.5 up for the both of you guys, and I think it's a 0.5 down for me. I think it's a 3.5 objectively. That's objectively where I think this movie is. Unfortunately, this movie was made for me, so it's a 4 for me still. Like I know I should give it a 3.5. I get that. I understand, right? But I've watched this movie more than once since the review. And every time I watch it, I'm just like, ha ha ha, yes, Lady Pinhead. Oh, she's so good. Like every time. I can't help it. The it's one note. Like, what music is this? That scene is just, I don't care. That movie could be dog shit around like Lady Pinhead. And let's be honest, there's parts of it that aren't great, right? But like this movie is just so fun. I just love me some Pinhead. I love me the Cenobite designs. It's just like hee. There's been a drought. Oh no. God.
Okay.
Hey. We haven't seen enough to say it is yet.
Okay. That's potentially fair. You know, I think there's a chance. But I think that the chance still relies on having a couple more Hellraiser movies
that are
good with her as Pinhead, and then we can say like, oh, this movie becomes essential. I understand why you think that our scores should all change by half a point, but I actually disagree, and I think that you're even now the bias comes through, and I hold my score at a 3. I don't dislike this movie, but it just didn't really do a lot for me. You know, a couple of cool Cenobite designs and good acting for Hellraiser or for Pinhead. That just doesn't push it all the way for me.
See, when I think back on this film, all I think about are the things I enjoyed. Like the mediocre bits have kind of just fallen by the wayside. So I actually, when I was looking at my score, I was like, I gave that a 3. That's not right. So I actually did plan on bumping this one to the 3.5. Bobby, when Bobby said that, I'm like, God damn it, man, called me out. He's right. He's right.
Because
and
I'm
no,
objectively right all the time, and Corbin is wrong here. It's a 3.5. But when we aggregate out the scores together, what we find is this movie actually is a 3.5 for the podcast. So I'm fine with it.
Oh boy. Next up, we talked about Halloween Ends. A honestly surprising, because it is the first Halloween movie that we did. Well, we did Halloween Kills before this, right? But still, like,
we haven't done the other Halloween movies yet.
Yeah,
on the old show.
We haven't even done Halloween 2018. We haven't even done all 3 of the new ones. Halloween Ends, the final, again, Halloween movie. Alan with a 2, Bobby with a 3.5, myself with a 3, all 3 no's. I'll go. And you know, I think I hoped that this movie over time would become a yes. And I guess, you know, giving it even more years, I think there's still a chance that it becomes a yes, because if they just don't make more Halloween movies, this one is just going to become yes for me. But I also have full faith that more Halloween movies will come, and I can just leave this at a no. So I hold the no. The 3.5 is tough, because like I actually think that this movie isn't that bad. It's just kind of a weird final entry for Halloween. It feels kind of like it's almost wanted to set up a next trilogy. It almost wanted to like
3.
I said 3.
You said 3.5.
No. And
roll back the tape.
It's impossible. It might be better than the 3, but as a Halloween movie, it's just really tough for me to give it more than a 3, especially off the back of Halloween Kills. I think the movie just doesn't make a lot of sense. So I'm gonna hold. 3 out of 5.
I'm good. I didn't like this film. I made that very, very clear when I watched this. That I just don't think that this is not what I wanted out of the end of this franchise of Halloween. The precipitous drop from Halloween 2018 to this was just awful. So 2, no.
This is better than Halloween Kills. It's half a point better than Halloween Kills, so I'm holding. Like I liked it. I didn't hate it. There's a lot of cool little bits here. It wraps everything up better than the last timeline did. Actually, better than the last 2 timelines did for Halloween. It just lets it end in a way that feels right and natural. The reality is, though, Halloween 2018 really should be the last movie you watch in any of these movies. Like,
This is a perfect ending. It's a
I
perfect
don't.
ending.
Yeah, I remember walking out. I watched this movie with my buddy Rain, and I remember Halloween 2018. I watched Halloween 2018 with my buddy Rain. This is a little bit of where you're gonna hear this story again when we do Halloween 2018, and I'm like, man, what a perfect ending. He's like, they're making 2 sequels, and my first response was like, oh fuck, and then I was like, they could be good, but
And they weren't.
they were fine.
Yeah. Next up, we watched VHS 99.
And Alan's wondering why he gave it a half a point higher than the rest of us.
That's right. Alan with a 2.5. Bobby and myself with a 2. All 3 no's. I wish I could give this a higher score because, like, in my memory, this is like just another VHS movie, which kind of puts it at a 2.5, you know? But when I look back at the skits that were in this movie, I remember why I thought it was a less than average VHS movie. And so I am holding at the 2. It's just below average. The final one is still just the best one and is so good. And I think if the quality of the other ones were just a little bit higher, this could probably be like a 3 just on the back of that final sketch. But as it stands, I give it a 2. I hold 2 and a no.
I'm also gonna hold, just because it's like, again, I just looked at the skits real quick and I was like, oh man, I kind of like didn't hate those skits, and then I thought about it for like a second more, and I'm like, no for the first one, no for the second one, yes for the third one, no for the fourth one, gross for the fourth one, and hell yeah for the fifth one. So it's like I have like a one really good skit out of all of them, and it's like that's like 20 minutes of the movie, and it's at the end. Like,
yeah. I also hold at 2.5, and no, it's average. So it doesn't do anything great, doesn't do anything terrible. It's just middle of the road, mediocre.
Right. My memory of your thoughts on this movie, that does make sense because you also liked a lot of it much more than I did. So, next up, we watched Insidious.
I would like to be the first one.
Okay, Bobby and Alan gave this 2.5 and no, and I gave this a 3 and a no. Bobby would like to go first. Bobby,
yes. I'm objectively correct all the time, except for apparently when it comes to Insidious, because I was wrong. It's a 3 and a yes, actually. This movie, I'm actually really excited for the 5th Insidious movie.
Yeah, the Red Door.
I like Insidious, and I like Insidious Chapter 2. I was less stoked, as you'll no doubt see, in Insidious Chapter 3 and 4. But, I'm excited to see that main story happen again. I think The Conjuring really poisoned the well for me on this. And I think this movie is pretty fun and cool, and is really good PG-13 horror. Like, vastly superior to The Conjuring and PG-13 horror. Like,
The Conjuring
there's enough
is rated R, so that's fair.
Oh, that's actually terrible. I hate them more now. But yeah, the reality is this is probably the best PG-13 horror it gets. Like,
okay.
So yeah.
Alan?
I looked at my notes because I had a transition where I used to be taking notes on my phone, but now I take notes on my desktop in just like Google Drive Docs. And I scrolled to the bottom just to see like what did I think, because I always put my score and essentiality. And I put 2.5 out of 5, which that lines up, and I'm good with that still. Honestly, it's average, mediocre, middle of the road. My essentiality though says reluctantly yes,
and he changed that to
and I'm
no.
trying to think. That's what I'm thinking. Is why did I go away from my gut?
Yeah.
Why did I go, no, this isn't essential? Because like I think Insidious does have a place at the table in general. I think it's a pretty big franchise, all things considered. It's one of those. It's made a name for itself, and I also think on its own merits, it does kind of reach out in a very interesting way. So I'm also going to go back to my original gut and say yes to Insidious.
I am going to hold the 3, and I'm going to change it also to a yes. Partially because we
corrected a past mistake.
We did so many other Insidious movies, and I think like over time it was like, oh, surely the first one must be a yes. And just thinking about the franchise as a whole. Yeah,
you guys did for the last key, and I hope to God you correct that mistake.
So this just another little piece of Essential Scares history, right? This was episode 70, and it was our first time, our very first franchise for when we were doing franchise months, or franchises in a row. Insidious was the first franchise we did, and the next movie we watched was Insidious Chapter 2. Insidious
I really think that this is actually the longest time we've held on to an idea.
Yeah, 30 episodes. I'm actually surprised that even just looking at it that was how long it was. Alan gave a 3.5, Bobby a 2.5, and myself with a 3. And this is because like this is weird now because thinking back on it is like, is Insidious Chapter 2 actually as good as the first Insidious? And honestly, I want to say no. I want to say that it's actually maybe a little bit better. But there are parts of the first Insidious that are really pretty good. And I think that the non-horror parts, especially like the relationship between the leads, is just like really, really well done in the first movie. And I think that even though the second movie might be a little bit better overall, the highs of the first movie are a little bit higher. And so I'm gonna stick with the 3. I think they balance out in the end. The no, I'll also stick with the no. Like at this point, it kind of is just another Insidious movie. Like it's really a lot like the first one. So I'll stay.
This movie isn't a 2.5, but also it's not better than Insidious. Right? Like, no. And I think it is kind of worse than Insidious, but it's like, and so we have to go on a half-point system. But I remember liking this movie roughly the same amount, like in hindsight, like that I'm thinking about it, it's like, oh, cool, like the possession thing is very clearly he's possessed, but it's kind of fun to like, like it's one of those things, again, when we're looking at this movie as baby's first horror, there's a lot to like here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think a 2.5 and a no is probably where this movie ends up lining up in my lexicon. The 3 is super justifiable, but I think I want to really delineate that like Insidious 1 is the best.
That's fair.
So far.
I unequivocally love Insidious Chapter 2. The whole possession thing works so well for me. I love the timey-wimey nonsense of this film. It is precisely what I want out of a sequel to this type of a franchise. It's not essential, but I do whole point still like it more than Insidious. Okay. And I don't care, frankly, if there's a disconnect there. It works for me.
All right. Well, and next up, shocker, we talked about Insidious Chapter 3.
Does anybody taste corn? I'm really tasting corn right now. What's that about? Corbin, are you tasting corn and vomit?
What is happening? I don't understand.
I don't know. I honestly I don't know because a movie's so great we had to watch it twice.
Whatever.
Like yeah.
So Alan gave this a
Did you really
1.
not get my bit?
No, I truly didn't. I'm sorry. Bobby and myself a 1.5. Alan, you had the lowest score.
I'm good. This movie's bad. Movie's real bad.
This movie makes me laugh a whole bunch.
How much does it make you laugh?
I think it's still. I feel like I laugh at this movie more than I laugh with it, so it's a 1.
Okay. Oh, it's a 1 now.
You're dropping it.
Yeah.
Nice. Corbin.
I hold 1.5. It's easily the worst, but it's not that bad. It's not a 1. I think our average scores are very similar across the board. But for me, it really takes a lot for a movie to go all the way down to 1 or even less. And this movie just isn't bad enough to be a 1.
That's fair.
Yeah.
The joke was we all got drunk off Mellow Corn Bottle and Bond whiskey, watched this movie, and none of us made it through it. Me and Alan fell asleep, and Corbin got sick, and so we had to watch this movie again. That was the bit. That was the bit of this joke. Now we all know. Let's move on to the last key, shall we?
Insidious number 4, the last key. Alan and myself a 3.5, and yes, Bobby with a 2 and a no. Bobby,
guess what? It's going down to a 1.5 out of 5.
No,
and
1.5.
I hated this movie so much.
Come on,
this movie felt so much like The Conjuring to me, and I hate it. Go ahead. Stay there. I don't care. I stand by my goddamn principles.
I am gonna stay there. I like this movie. It's very fun. It jumps right into the next tier of just ridiculous, dumb horror. And I'm sorry, I had a blast with this movie. I thought that it was a return to form for Insidious after Chapter 3. It was such a downer.
Oh my god,
I'm way there.
What?
I'm way there.
This movie feels the first two movies so you're right. Of all of these movies, right, they all feel kind of weird, right? 1 and 2 feel connected, and 3 and 4 both feel weirdly disconnected. And 4 just ultimately is a better movie. It's a more well-constructed plot. And it's not like a prequel, so they're not trying to force shit in. But goddamn, do I just not give a fuck about Lady?
I'm all there. 3.5, yes. I'm easy peasy. No questions asked. We don't need
to give this one a yes anymore. We don't need to do it. We corrected the mistake. Insidious 1 is the yes of this franchise.
No mistake. It's there was none.
I don't understand how we could not. This is all pure unadulterated bias. I don't understand how Blood Diner could not have been put into the Hall of Fame.
Listen, I stand by my principles. That's all I have to say. Next up. Two easy movies that we can kind of just skip right past. We watched The Shining and Dr. Sleep back to back, and both movies got all 5s. Both movies got all yeses. Those movies are in the Hall of Fame, and
they should be,
and they stay there, both of them.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Dare I say it? If you watch those movies with a 4 to 6 hour. However long it takes, I can't remember. I think both movies are 2 hours long.
It'd be
4 hours long.
4 or 5 hours.
It might be one of the most that with all watching the 12 to 16 hours it takes to watch all the Lord of the Rings movies might be one of the greater cinematic experiences you can have.
It's very, very, very good. Yeah. Next up was episode 76. We watched we started the Texas Chainsaw Massacre duology, the 2003 remake version. Alan gave it a 1 out of 5. Bobby and myself with 1.5s. Alan with a no. Bobby and myself with yes. I stand 1.5 and yes. This is not a good movie, but it is essential. It is probably the worst movie that is an easy yes for me on this whole list, I think. I don't like that it's a yes necessarily, but it just is. It just did a lot for the genre.
It's the first requel.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the first. It's its first remake, rather.
Yeah. Alan.
On principle alone, I'm sticking to 1 and no. I hated this film.
What is that?
Why
I don't
couldn't
care
they
what it
do
did.
this for Blood Diner? Why couldn't we do this? We had principles then, and you all abandoned me as I marched on Iwo Jima by myself. I'm
Here's
an
the thing.
American patriot. I'm a war hero.
I don't care what this did. This movie was such a disgrace to me that I just can't. I can't. Tell
You're
people to
gonna
watch
give
this.
you're gonna hold with the beginning too, and you absolutely shouldn't.
Texas Chainsaw
Oh no,
Massacre.
the beginning is a 2 and a no.
The beginning, yeah. Alan gave a 2 and a no. Bobby 1.5 and no.
I'm
Myself 2 and
holding
a
as
no.
well.
I also hold. It's better than the first one, a little bit, but it's definitely not essential. We all hold.
Yeah. The beginning actually did what I wanted this movie to do, so it's better by definition.
Next up, we watched the Ghoulies quadrilogy, starting with the Ghoulies 1 with 3 1.5s, a yes from Alan, and 2 no's. Alan,
I stay.
okay, yeah, all right, fair.
I think that Ghoulies 1 absolutely is essential. I think
Okay.
it.
Fuck it. If we're all playing this like I'm gonna go off my principles and spite or whatever, I'm also saying yes. It's
Oh
still
my
a 1.5,
God.
but it's a yes now. Fuck you guys. Eat shit.
This is an easy 1.5 no. It's an easy no. I'm sorry. The first Ghoulies, come on.
No, you gotta have it.
No,
It's
you
still
don't.
a no.
have
I'm
little
kidding.
ghouls.
All jokes aside, I am better than all of you. It's still a no. Please make it right. Thank you.
Sorry. But Ghoulies 2, a 3 from Alan, a 3.5 from Bobby, a 2.5 from me, but 3 yeses. I'm gonna bump to a 3 and hold the yes.
I maintain. I don't care if I'm like biased a little bit. It's Ghoulies 2 kind of fucking. I was shocked how much I love this movie.
Ghoulies 2 owns bones. We can just say it. It's great. It's a fun film. It took the franchise into a cool direction. Big Ghoulie is cool. Yeah, it's a 3 and yes.
Okay.
Easy.
Ghoulies go to college.
Yank Crown.
Yank Crown.
Okay. I might have been
Alan
here,
with a
boys.
0.5 and a no. Bobby and myself with a 1 and a
Pick a
no.
1.
I just got done talking about how it's hard to give a 1, right? Because it really takes a lot for a movie to be so bad that it's a 1. And thinking back on Ghoulies Go to College, is Ghoulies Go to College so bad that it actually deserves the 1? Honestly, yes it is. But I do enjoy it.
I remember the reason why I said Ghoulies Go to College could not be a Bobby 1.5. And it was all the sexual assault innuendo.
Homophobia.
I do remember
and the
that, yeah.
homophobia. Yeah. There was a lot of really problematic shit in Ghoulies Go to College, which I stand by makes it out of the Bobby 1.5 territory. But holy fuck, is this movie so full of so many memes? Oh my god,
That's great.
The
Yeah.
Ghoulies drinking
Yanks.
all of the beer, the Yank Crown. Dude, I wish this movie sucked less. Like,
Yeah.
That's fair. Oh, Alan, what about you?
I'm 1. It is not a 0.5. It's a 1
All right.
and no.
Next up, Ghoulies 4.
I wanna start.
I'm looking for some vindication. Bobby and Alan gave 0s and no. I gave it a 1 and a no. And
I was mad.
I'll start.
I was angry.
I'll start really super quick. I hold 1 and no. This movie is a 1. I understand why you might be mad about this movie, but I'm sorry, it's just not that. It's not a 0.
It's a 0.5. It gets to a 0.5. And here's the thing. Remember earlier when we were talking about Resident Evil, how I said we'll come back? This is where it's coming back.
Uh-huh.
This is a 0.5.
Yeah.
I cannot in good conscience say that this is a 0 and
Yeah.
Resident Evil is a 0.5. Like no. Those are the same.
Shockingly, me and Il had the same thought process. It's also a 0.5. I saw
Yeah.
both the Resident Evil things. I'm like, oh, this is definitely not bad as Infinite Darkness
Exactly.
or the other Resident Evil show. I think in part is because those were shows and I had to sit with them longer.
Fair.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I'd watch Ghoulies. I want to say it's probably a Bobby 0.5, where it is all just absolutely it's like The Room, where it's like I almost want to give this a 1.5 because like this movie is full of just weird, stupid bullshit. But the reason why I cut the entire point off of it is there's just no Ghoulies in it. There's zero Ghoulies in this Ghoulies movie.
Well,
The guy from Ghoulies is in it.
they're new
And there's
Ghoulies.
also like a lot of anti-Asian and racism and Islamophobia in it. Like
it's a Ghoulies movie.
you're right. Half of the Ghoulies movies are hella fucked up. You're right.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. What are you still? You're sticking to the 0.5, correct?
Yeah, of course I am. There's no way I'm
Okay, I want to make sure I get my record straight.
Yeah.
Next up, we watched. We moved on to the Hell House trilogy, I should say, kind of. But we'd already watched Hell House 1, so we were just cleaning up a franchise. So we watched Hell House LLC 2, The Abaddon Hotel. This was one, but all three of us gave it 4s. All three of us said no. And this is kind of a weird one, at least for me, because like I gave Hell House LLC the first one a 5. And I really don't think that there is a 1 point differential between a Hell House 2 and Hell House 1. I agree that it's a no. Because the first one is, and the other two are kind of just iterations on an idea.
Yeah.
But I don't know. The thing is like I already gave Hell House the 5, right? I'm gonna. It is better, but it's not a point better. So due to that, I'm gonna kick Hell House 2 up to 4.5. I hold the no.
I will go ahead and respond with saying that I was the one person keeping Hell House out of the Hall of Fame. And I maintained keeping Hell House out of the Hall of Fame. And while I do think that Hell House LLC is a great movie, but maybe not Hall of Fame worthy, but definitely essential, I do not think the Abaddon. I've thought about the Abaddon Hotel, and I feel like y'all really hyped this movie for me. And so I'm actually willing to drop this down to 3.5. I think it's a point worse.
Well, right after I just got done saying I didn't think so.
I know.
Weird.
Only one of us is particularly right all the time.
Yeah, it's usually me, to be fair.
And it's never me.
You've kept too many movies out of the Hall of Fame for it to be you.
That's fair. Killer Clowns is the one that you guys are never going to let me forget about. Just wait till we do Evil
You had a
Dead 2.
chance. You had a
Until
chance.
you guys decide. Until you guys decide to be men, be toxically masculine men, and give Blood Diner. So
I'll never do it for Sheetar.
Essentially,
Oh boy,
go for it.
I'm sticking with Hell House 2 at a 4 and no. I remember the big thing was they had this whole idea of like phone camera thing that they never really did anything with, and it seemed like this was one of the ones where they had missed opportunities that I really wanted more out of, and they just didn't really fulfill those. So 4 and a no for me.
Next up, we predictably watched Hell House LLC 3, Lake of Fire. This was triple 4.5s, triple no. I will go first again, and once again, I this time I will stay. This movie I remember being pretty good, and it's a little bit like looking back on it. I know that we were pretty hyped on it being the end of the trilogy, and it did a lot to kind of wrap it all up. Realistically, this might be a 4 movie, but it. As a trilogy ender and as the way that I think it tied up the story, for me it gains the half point. So that's I think how it gets the 4.5.
Corbin, I have a quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Are you in my head right now?
I'm always in your head.
Because very clearly this movie is a 4. It's again, I think if I were to rate these movies, I'd go 132.
Yeah.
And I think everybody within their right frame of mind would do 132.
I
I also
agree with
think that
that
none of these
132.
movies are perfect
Hmm?
by any stretch of the imagination.
I agree with that too.
So I'm gonna go ahead. Listen, baby. I know who you are. I know what you're into.
Yeah.
And so I will say that for no, this movie is really good, but the Christ metaphor is a little bit done over the head, and the fact that this movie ends up meaning like the Christ metaphor ends up having where like nothing bad ends up happening in this movie is fun, but also Jesus Christ would never resurrect as a billionaire. I'm sorry. Like
That's fair. That's fair for sure.
like,
No. I also actually am dropping down to the 4 because I just don't think I can confidently say for me that this was better than Hell House 2. So 4 and a no.
Okay. Next up, I went on vacation to Disney World, and Bobby and Alan watched the duology, See No Evil, See No Evil 2. Starting with See No Evil, Bobby gave it a 1 and a no. Alan gave it a 1 and a no. Gentlemen, do you stay? I famously did not score
first
these movies.
Yeah. First off, have you seen See No Evil yet?
Have I seen See No Evil? See, it's funny because I'm pretty sure the point of this episode is to re-review and re-evaluate, right? And I can't re-review or re-evaluate something that I've never reviewed or evaluated. So Bobby and Alan, how do you feel about See No Evil?
Do you see this
exactly
shit?
The same.
You see that? You feel exactly the same?
This movie's so fucking stupid. It's got Kane, and Kane isn't good in it. And like Kane's in it a lot, and he's not even scary in it. He was scary for a boy who was maybe in the 7th grade who really liked masked Kane and really wanted unmasked Kane to also be cool. He never was.
That's fair.
So no, the answer is actually not.
There's one great scene in that film. It's when Kane throws his mom across the whole room into a set of spikes.
Incorrect.
I
was shocked that happened, honestly, because like at first I kind of thought that maybe the mom wasn't real. I thought it was like all in his mind, and then he killed the mom. It was very funny.
So you have seen the movie?
Of course I watched the movie. It's episode 100. You think I was going to end this with less scores, with less reviews than you guys?
Oh my god, I'm so stoked.
I could never. I watched them both.
Yes. Oh god, Corbin, I was so mad at you. There are 2 good scenes in this movie before we let Corbin review, and it says one is when he throws mom, but scene 2 is when he shoves the cell phone down texting girl's throat. Scene 3 is when the nice vegan girl just dies the worst possible death.
Yeah. I do also kind of just enjoy the beginning. Like it's really not a terrible intro. It did. I felt like it kind of primed me for a little bit more gore because it cuts his arm off in the first like 60 seconds. Honestly, it's well known that I have a huge bias towards not only this era of horror, but this subgenre of horror and this type of horror. And I like this movie better than both of you. 1.5 out of 5 for me.
We fucking called it.
We called it.
We said that.
We called it.
I'm yes like,
definitely no. Easy no. I enjoyed my time with it. It was not a waste of time. I liked it.
I almost gave it a yes because it I thought it was the only WWE Studios horror movie. But then, like, there's an even better WWE horror movie.
Yeah, it's called See No Evil 2.
That is true.
You're right. But that's not the movie I'm talking about today.
But we are talking about it today. See No Evil 2. Alan gave this a 1.5 and a no, and Bobby with a 2 and a no. Gentlemen, how do you feel about this movie? today.
I messed up in giving See No Evil 1 a 1.5 because this movie is very clearly a 1.5 out of 5. And no, like, this movie is so stupid, but it's got the lady from Ginger Snaps in it, and it does.
Yep.
I don't know why you looked at it that way, but
He was
it's got a
probably
lot of funny little...
hearing something else in the ether.
I was hearing something outside and was confused.
He heard the cold sound of the void. I'm just still so stoked that Corbin watched these movies.
Look, See No Evil 2 is objectively better than See No Evil by a whole half point. I stay at a 1.5 and a 0. At 1.5 and a 0, 1.5 and a no.
Fair.
I unironically love the fact that, like, they show a guy, like, they show, like, a burn victim that has the mask, and, like, it has nothing to do with Kane just putting on a fucking dumbass clear mask because they thought it'd be spookier. Like, holy shit, this movie is so stupid. I love it.
So I don't have a lot to say about this movie, except to say that the setting was better. The kills were a little bit better. And it was just like, this movie feels like it was made in 2008 and not 8 years later, but just 2 years later. I agree with you.
Yes.
Except for the fact that they use modern cell phones in this movie, like, a lot.
That I love, because it takes place immediately after, and one of the first lines is like, "Oh, this is trending on Twitter," and I'm like, "Doesn't this movie take place in 2006?"
Before Twitter,
Yeah.
like, yeah, famously before Twitter.
Anyway, I totally agree with you guys. This movie is half a point better than See No Evil 1. I give it a 2 and a no.
He just followed my scores at the time. Oh my god! I feel like I was like marching
channeling
for
Corbin.
Corbin. Yeah.
Oh
my fucking god! Holy shit! This is the high point of the episode for me. It won't be for the audience.
Well, because nobody watched those
AVP,
movies.
baby.
So next up, we watched AVP and AVP Requiem. So Alien versus Predator from 2004. Alan and Bobby with 1.5, myself with a 2, Alan with a no, me and Bobby with yes. Alan with the objectively worst score out of all of us, the lowest of everything.
Yeah.
How do you feel about this movie now? And keep in mind, because I haven't mentioned this to the audience, if you haven't been keeping track, this is episode 86 that we're recapping now. This was from March, so it's only been 3 months. So
Yeah.
If you've been listening for any period of time, you remember this episode.
Right. Not that long ago.
I feel good about the 1.5. This film is one of those, when we watched this film, it was eye-opening to me, because what I thought this film was and what this film actually was, two very different things. And I'm going to keep with the no. I just don't think, I think that this is a rose-tinted glasses type.
Really?
Film. Just outright.
I think a higher
100%.
score might be rose-tinted.
I think Calling's Essential crosses that for
Interesting.
me.
I have to do some quick, because I forgot.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yep.
AVP come out.
2004.
Oh, no. I feel like I gotta go... There's a big part of me that says absolutely not, right? Because it's not even the first V movie, because Freddy vs. Jason came out a year earlier, right? So this is very clearly a cash grab. But also, it's just the first time that there was a movie cash grab on a comic book series that had been going on for years. So, like, is this the first movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Maybe. I think the 1.5 is a nostalgia factor that I cannot lose, because this is probably actually the first real horror movie I ever watched. But the reality, and I think that's actually why I said yes. So personally, I feel like it's that, you know what? I'm remembering this review again. I said yes because it's the first horror movie I ever watched. I know I'm not the only one. So Actually, technically, that's not true because Jurassic Park 3 was the first horror movie I ever actually really watched. Actually, that's not true because Jaws was the first horror movie I ever actually really watched. But still, I can see
Stop
AVP
lying.
being the first one that I actually really watched. So let's go for it. It's there. Move on. I'm holding.
All right. I of course hold with the yes, for a myriad of reasons that I went over a lot, I think, on that episode not so long ago. I actually the issue with my score now, right, is that as I've like kind of looked back and have thought more about my range, and the other movies that I've given twos or movies that I've scored above it or below it, and thinking about the actual quality of this movie, is this movie a 2? Is this movie below average? Uh, I'm gonna say no. I think it just is average. I give it a 2.5. I don't think that this movie is bad necessarily, um, but it's also not like good necessarily. um, for everything that it does wrong, there's like a little thing that it does right. So for me, I think it actually does just kind of balance out. And I think that a little bit of me dropping it down to a 2, because in my mind it was a much higher score, like 4 or 5 before this, is a lot of what Alan was talking about, which is that the movie that it isn't the movie that I thought of it as. And so I think a little bit of my score at the time was like forcefully overcorrecting. And now, with like the benefit of the double hindsight, both on the movie that it is and what I thought it is, I think that it's just average. 2.5.
I'm doing some in-game research here.
Of course. Next up,
Okay.
Aliens versus Predator, Requiem. Alan and myself with a 3.5. Bobby with a 2.5. With a yes, no, and no. Alan with the objectively best score this time, with a 3.5 and a yes. How do you feel?
I'm gonna bring it down to a 3.
Okay.
So I think we got really, really, really hyped up about this. This episode was a lot more like jovial. Look, you know what I'm talking about. Corbin and I got very excited about this because this is the AVP we wanted.
It's the AVP I wanted too, for its worth. So like, it's fine.
Yes, that's fair. It just this actually had the things I wanted, but it's not essential. I was wrong. I'll make the correction now. No, it's not. It's absolutely not essential. It's a great fun. It's a blast. You'll have a grand old time, but no, it's not essential.
I'm gonna hold with a 2.5 and a no. I was looking at the 2.5s that I gave both times, and I'm like, some of these movies are objectively better but less fun. Some of these movies are objectively worse but more fun. And I feel like this is another one of those quintessential, like, yeah, this is like a movie that I watch and then forget about, and I go, man, AVP Requiem was fun, right? And I go, oh, that's right. There's like 4 fun, real like cool scenes, and then the rest is just like meh.
I hold 3.5 and a no. I think it is a point better than the first one. It's just a point more fun, more enjoyable.
It is a point more better than
Right.
It is a point better than the
so
first
we,
one.
we
I agree with you.
We do agree.
But,
yeah. So
basically, where that point lies.
all that matters is that we agree. Then we started our longest journey yet, the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. Technically a franchise finisher, because you may remember we watched Nightmare on Elm Street 1 on like episode 9. So we watched Nightmare 2, Freddy's Revenge. This movie got 3 yeses from us, a 4 from Alan, a 4.5 from Bobby, and a 3.5 from me. I'm going to go first and just say, I don't have a lot to say about this movie that hasn't already been said, except to say that I hold the score and the essentiality. I do think that this movie is essential for various reasons, but I don't think it's that amazing. I think that it's more essential than it is good.
This movie is the least A Nightmare on Elm Street of all the A Nightmare on Elm Street movies, but shockingly, I liked it second most. So it's still a 4.5 and a yes for me. I don't know why I'm still. Maybe it's like just all of the sexuality in it, like the gay sexual. It's like there's just something about this movie that makes me go, I just enjoyed it a lot. But again, the the love plot is so wooden, and clearly everybody's uncomfortable, and it just was like every time they're like, "I love you," it's like, no, you don't. You love your best friend. Kiss your best friend. Kiss him. Give him a kiss. That's it.
I'm also holding that 4, and yes, I mean this movie's fantastic. It's the transformation scenes into Freddy are just so iconic. Like they're so good.
They just should have kept doing this, right? Like
This was such an interesting idea.
Next up, we talked about Shocker, a movie, an episode that I originally wasn't on, but that had then since went back and reviewed.
Because I yelled at you every week until you did it.
And I took my damn time.
This is true.
So Alan with a 3 and a no, Bobby and myself with a 3.5 and a no. And as the most recent person to review this movie, I'm going to go first and say that, you know, this movie was a lot of fun. And like, it's kind of weird because I think if you asked me just randomly what I thought my score for this movie was, I don't know that I would say 3.5, but looking at the 3.5 and thinking about the movie, I think it's right. So I'm going to hold.
I had an idea of what another movie in this franchise should be. And I was like, and I looked at what I gave it, and I was like, and I looked at what I gave Shocker, and I'm like, these movies are equal for different reasons. So I'm gonna give Shocker a 4 and a no.
Interesting. Spoilers for
I will be holding at my I'll be holding at my 3 and no. Shocker's a ton of fun. It's way smarter than it has any fucking right to be.
The movie's
realistically.
genius.
Like it really is. So that last act is so wild. It's so funny
to watch
children
Blood
swearing
Diner.
at adults is very funny.
I can't wait to watch Blood Diner. I can't wait to watch Ghoulies 3 and Ghoulies 2 and 3 for what it's worth, and then Shocker, and then started off with an Exorcist 3. Oh my god, what a fucking marathon! That's an essential marathon right there.
What a collection of sequels.
Next up, we got right back into actual Nightmare on Elm Street with Dream Warriors. Alan and myself with 4.5, Bobby with 3.5. 3 yeses. Does anybody want to change their score?
4. It is as good as Shocker. I didn't like it as much, but I also they're different movies, and I think I was upset with this movie coming off of Shocker because Shocker has so much benefit of like seeing where the franchise went, and I think I got a little bit like miffed there. I don't like Dream Warriors as much as I should, and I accept that. But I think that it's I think it's a 4.
Okay. Then we watched Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master. A stark contrast to the previous entries and the beginning of the end of our high-rated Nightmare movies. We gave this movie 1 out of 5 from me and from Alan, and a 1.5 from Bobby, with 3 no's. Alan?
We're good.
Okay. You know,
This movie's bad.
yeah, like there's a lot about this movie that I really like, but you know, I think
Maybe
in
a 0.5
hindsight,
more.
yeah, I do think it is a 0.5 more, because there are some kills in this movie that are just actually pretty good and hold the score on its own.
Look, is Dream Master the best Nightmare movie? No. But is Dream Master the 4th best Nightmare movie? Absolutely.
That's not even true, and you know it's not true.
No, I think I hold to that.
No, you're not gonna hold to it.
Oh no, oh god, I did give this a higher score. No.
Next up, we watched Deathbed, The Bed That Eats, a 5 out of 5 title for a 0 out of 5 movie, according to Alan. With Bobby and myself with a 0.5. This is one of the lowest scores I have given, including our adjusted scores, which are largely adjusted higher. I think the only other...
Are they really?
Yes. I think the only other movie that I've given this low of a score to was that Resident Evil TV show. And I hold 0.5. It's just not very good, but the title is amazing. 7 out of 5 title.
Yeah, I feel like this is the point where we all just go, yep.
This movie's garbage. I hated it.
You're not going to give it a 0.5?
The title is half the point alone. I just don't understand.
No, it's not.
No,
it's
you're
not.
no. I'm so sorry.
No.
Better. This movie is worse than the Resident Evil TV show.
Yes. Absolutely.
You're a fool.
This movie is worse.
Than the Resident
This movie is
Evil TV
worse
show.
than that. It is. It absolutely is.
This
is worse than the Resident Evil TV
alone
show.
Was more interesting.
Look, the next episode, because I was on vacation for this episode, I wasn't on the show proper. I said skeleton hands, hilarious. The complete lack of acting for that, hilarious. It does not earn anything though for one
skeleton gag and one deathbed, the bed that eats combined. That's like a quarter point each, right? That's a half point.
Crunchy sound.
Yeah.
Every woman character in this entire movie gets naked, which is like a hilarious level of sexism. Yeah. Like, you can give it an ironic 0.5, man. You can do that. You're allowed to do it.
I can give it a 0. I can give it a 0 because that's what it deserves.
Who would have thought that this is the second largest piece of contention on this episode?
The first largest is I stormed the beaches.
Yes, that's the one.
I fought them all. I asked my brothers to come with me, and you left me to die.
Oh.
It's accurate, actually.
All right, next up, we watched Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child. All 3 ones, all 3 no's. And this is a weird one because, like, I know that this is a 1, right? I hold the 1 because this movie is not good. But also, like, all the notes that I have for this movie do make me laugh when I read them. Like, this movie does get a lot of chuckles out of me. And I would say that the 1 out of 5 probably does not accurately represent how willing I am to watch this movie again.
Dude, yeah. Right? Like one of my favorite bits
but it's very fun.
One of my favorite bits of this movie is it's very clear that this and Dream Master were kind of written together because the boyfriend survives.
Yes.
So it's like there's a very clear like, dude, by the way, speaking of, right? And also the next movie was very clearly starting to be written because there's a baby involved, like,
right.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, so good.
So what?
So bad. I hold.
Okay.
Like,
yeah.
I also hold.
I would very happily watch all of the Nightmare movies again.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
Well, next up we watched Freddy's Dead, the final Nightmare, the first Nightmare on Elm Street movie without Nightmare on Elm Street in the title. Alan gave this a 2.5. Bobby and myself 1.5. All 3 no's again. You know, I agree with the 1.5. I think like it was just a little bit more realized than the Dream Child, but it was also like a little bit less funny. But the movie was just better, so I'll give it the 0.5 over. Still, I'll hold 1.5.
This movie gets a point for at the end where the main character lady looks and goes, "Freddy's dead," and then it freeze frames with the credits over it.
I love that.
Like, that's all I need. Yeah, that's all I need. Like, this movie is so fucking stupid. But I don't care. It's a Bobby 1.5. Yeah.
I'm gonna actually adjust down to a 2.
Okay.
I think calling this average is a little aggressive, but I do genuinely find this movie a ton of fun. I loved this. Was such a high point for me with the garbage that we had to sit through leading up to this. So did it get a higher rating for me in part because of the sheer gluttony of nonsense we watched before this? Probably. but that's just the way the cookie crumbles, boys. I don't know what to tell you.
The cookie did crumble like that.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
It did.
And then we watched Wes Craven's New Nightmare, a movie that Alan only thought was a 3 out of 5. Bobby a 4, myself a 4.5. All three of us said yes. Now, Alan, you originally gave Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare a 2.5, but Wes Craven's New Nightmare only a 3. This is a half-point
That's
difference.
insane.
How do you now, with the benefit of 2 months hindsight, feel about this?
Well, we corrected one. Now we get to correct the other, and we're going to bump this one up the half point to a 3.5. Yeah, Wes Craven's New Nightmare is very interesting, and I'm keeping the yes, by the way.
Yeah.
This movie is not at all what I thought it was going to be. And this was also the second time I had to rewatch a film for the show. Third time, because I had to watch Mad God twice because I fell asleep while watching that. But I also fell asleep while watching this because Mad God was very boring and not interesting at all. Okay,
that's how
why.
You're not interesting. God,
No.
dude, I'm so mad at you.
That's okay.
I can't remotely express my anger. Continue. I'm sorry.
That was about it, really.
Right.
I enjoyed this. The way this movie played with what is a dream and what isn't was, again, they made that interesting again. Like this was a lot of fun.
Yeah. You're right. I'm gonna hold with Wes Craven's New Nightmare. I think I got of the newer movies, I got one right, and I think I've got one a little wrong.
That's fair. I'm also going to hold. I think that this movie is right on the edge of being an absolute masterpiece. And I really, really love everything about this movie. And
Would you agree it's too personal?
I think that might be what prevents the half, only from 4.5 to 5. But also I think that that's part of what makes it so good, because it's kind of like an interesting autobiographical play on the Nightmare franchise, and I really like it for that. Then we did A Nightmare on Elm Street 2010, the remake, a movie that Alan and myself gave a 2, and Bobby gave a 2.5. We all said no. I'm gonna just go ahead.
That's not true at all. Alan and you gave it a 2.5, and I gave it a 2.
Oh, the names are in a different order now. Maybe. I don't know why I said
That's
that.
right, Alan Bobby Corbin. Yeah,
it's been a very long episode. It's been a very long episode. You simply can't blame me for anything. So maybe I misread what I wanted to do, right? What I wanted to say was I hold at a 2 out of 5. Seeing now that I actually give it a 2.5, I'm gonna go ahead and pop that baby down to a 2. I hold the no.
I'm also going to hold it my 2.5 and a no. This one to me is average, and I remember this one being one that was frustrating because, there's an idea here. This had potential, but it just didn't capitalize on it, and it just put it right into that mediocrity soup.
I do think it had.
The
bones of a wonderful movie are right there. They're right there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually going to drop it to a 1.5. But not a Bobby 1.5, just a regular 1.5. I think that's the reason why I gave it a 2, because I was like, Bobby 1.5s are sacred. But now that I've done all of the 100 episodes, it's like, no, they're not. I fucking don't give a shit about this. I've moved all of the episodes where I was too much of a coward to say it's a Bobby 1.5 to 3s or whatever. So it's a 1.5. It's actually pretty bad. And I wanted it to be good because Jackie Earle Haley is a very good Freddy Krueger. But this movie just it's equal parts. I said it's equal parts trying to faithful and soulless, but I don't think it's equal parts. I think it's mostly soulless. The faithfulness doesn't feel that way when you sit with it for any period of time. I get why this movie is largely derided.
Fair. Next up, and finishing us all off, we watched the Basket Case trilogy. So starting with Basket Case
Can I
1,
hold in all three?
Yeah, you can hold right now in all three. Yeah, I'll just recap you. I've
also
on all of them.
Yeah, I have no problems with any of my scores.
So
on
we'll
Basket
just fly
Case.
through these real quick. Basket Case 1, Alan a 2, Bobby a 3, myself a 1.5. Alan with a no, Bobby yes, me no. Everybody holds exactly as they are.
Yeah, I get nothing to hide. I love these movies unironically, but also they're very dumb.
Basket Case 2, Alan with a 3, Bobby with a 3, myself with a 2.5. All 3 no's. Does everybody hold?
I hold.
I do not.
Oh,
I'm gonna drop to the 2. I'm sorry, but and especially by the third one, I was really talking a
This
lot
makes
about
sense.
I didn't like these movies all that much, and I think the 2.5 was generous. You guys both liked it a lot more than I did, and I think I was feeling the hype a little bit. Basket Case 3, The Progeny, another 5 out of 5 title, where Alan gave it a 2.5, Bobby and myself with a 3. Again, 3 no's. Do you gentlemen hold?
I hold.
I hold.
I, again, do not. And this one I give the 2.5 that I previously gave to Basket Case 2. This one is easily my favorite, and I don't really feel like it was ever a 3, but I gave Basket Case 2 a 2.5, and I knew that this one was better, so I gave it the higher score. I still think that it's better, but neither of them are really above average, so I give it the 2.
Congratulations, gentlemen. We are officially harsher reviewers than we were 100 episodes ago. 101 episodes ago.
Yeah, that's true.
It's interesting you say that, Bobby. You and Corbin are harsher. I am just slightly less harsh.
Oh, is this true?
So at the initial pass, my average score was a 3.01. Bobby's average score was a 3.36, and Corbin's average score was a 3.20. That has now shifted to me with a 3.03, so 0.02% better. Pretty flat. Honestly, it's hilarious that it turned out like that for mine, because that shows to me there's a lot of I changed quite a few scores, and some of them by pretty big amounts. So that average change does not necessarily show how much my scores actually shifted, because boy, they did. Bobby, you got a fair bit harsher, going from a 3.36 to a 3.23. And Corbin, just you were the same as me, but a little bit more negative, 3.2 to a 3.18. And overall, for the whole show, we went from a 3.13 to a 3.09. So just slightly harsher.
Sorry, episodes
the second
102 plus, 101 plus. Y'all are going to get the real us now.
Oh my god.
It's going to be brutal.
Oh boy.
But yeah.
What
But
a
speaking
time.
of a much more cynical,
Yeah, true.
much more evil, much more bad Essential Scares podcast, what are your handles? Where can we find you guys?
You can find me on Twitter at Corbangarang, or just about anywhere at Bolters and Bourbon. I like to talk about video games and Transformers at Corbangarang. I talk about war games at Bolters and Bourbon. What have I been up to? In the last little while, I went to see The Flash, which was really cool. It's it's certainly not the best comic book movie of all time, but I quite enjoyed it. And then Warhammer 10th edition has come out as of this recording. It has been out for 2 days, and it has consumed my life for much more than 2 days. And that is really what I'm doing: building, painting, reading the new edition. I'm pumped, super, super pumped. So follow me at Bolters and Bourbon to see my progress there, or at Corbangarang if you don't care about that part.
You can find me at twitch.tv/theredweenie, where you can see me streaming date of release on Sundays and starting date of release every other Tuesday. After date of release, I will be on Tuesday nights every other week streaming a game of my choice. For the main while, it'll probably be Diablo, my hardcore run. But if I decide to play a different game, we'll see what happens. For a amount of time that, I don't know, I'll probably start around 7 or 8, and I'll go till, I don't know, and until I get tired, and then I'll be done. What have I been doing? Been waiting patiently for my 10th edition box to show up with Warhammer. Been playing a bit of Diablo, and have been largely living life, living large. I've got a couple of very interesting vacation days coming up with my family in July. July is apparently a vacation month. Very excited for that. And, just living the dream. Twitch.tv/TheRedWeenie. Hang out with me then. I'll fucking be your best friend in the whole wide world and give you a whole bunch of kisses.
You can find me at a seal punter just about anywhere. I am also eagerly waiting my Leviathan box because it was supposed to be here today and then got delayed in shipment. So it is supposedly going to be here tomorrow. We'll find out. That's been the big one. I'm actually going to go play disc golf this week because I hadn't played. It was a series of events that stopped me from going to my usual Thursday leagues because I also have a Warhammer Boarding Actions League on Thursday evenings. When I was leading up to Whiskey Night, I wanted to play more Boarding Actions because we were doing a Boarding Actions tournament.
I won, by the way.
So that took up... Yes, Bobby did win. Then, the week where I was about to go back, I went and got a tattoo. And if you know anything about tattoos, you're not really supposed to go out and sweat a bunch after you get a tattoo. So instead of going and playing disc golf in the June heat of Indiana, I went and played even more Boarding Actions last Thursday. It was great. We didn't play 10th yet because we didn't have all the rules and stuff. But I am very, very excited. I'm playing a game or two this week where I will be fielding the Knights. Because, boy, picking them up this past Christmas has been a pretty worthwhile purchase given where the 10th meta is. But yeah, that's about it. A seal punter, just about anywhere.
Does Alan chase the meta? People are asking.
I've heard actually that out of the three of us, only one person chases the meta, and his name is Bobby.
It's completely inaccurate. I'm playing I'm running into playing arguably the third worst army in the game right now. It's fine
for now, but you can also find the podcast just about anywhere at Essential Scares. We are active on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and we would love it if you gave us a follow. In the bio for all of our socials is a link to our Discord where we hang out all the time and talk about movies, music, games, and more. We're always taking suggestions on what to do next. This finishes our first 100 episodes. Astute listeners may notice that we have now done 102 episodes because one episode wasn't counted and episode 100 was twice. So go ahead and shoot us a message or a Discord with something that you would like us to cover in the future. The format of the show is going to be changing a little bit going forward. And I think it may be best, we'll probably take a 1 week off for the holiday. Next week, if you're American, it's July 4th. And we record right on top of the holiday. We're going to plan, we're going to figure it out, and we're going to be right back in 2 weeks with a whole new, all new, better Essential Scares. Bobby,
I want to be very clear. You didn't, and you announced this before anybody said, but unlike last time when you announced it and I was pissed off, this is again behind the curtain. I'm totally fine with taking a week off for the holiday this time. I want to be very clear on that. This is both in front of and behind the curtain. There was a whole fight last time we took a couple weeks off, but I'm really cool with that. I'm like, oh fuck, we didn't talk about what movie's next, and I don't have the time for it. So thank you. Yes, we're taking a week off. See you in 2 weeks, baby. If you're lucky, I may just download a bunch of episodes and just do a best of thing. It's not gonna happen, so don't suspect it.
He immediately says, "I'm gonna do it," and then within the same breath, there's no way this happens.
It's not gonna. It's not gonna happen. But if it does, everybody tell me in the Discord. join the Discord, and then be like, Bobby, I'll pay money on your Patreon. And that's all. I don't have one, but I'll get one if that happens. Cool. Goodbye.
Wow, Bobby's already trying to make money on his own for a triumvirate product.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This is
Very
intriguing.
Patreon.
Very intriguing.
You're right. I'm so sorry. Listen, this we've been doing this episode for 3 hours at this point. I'm like fucking exhausted.
You know what? Follow us and join the Discord. Thank you so much to everybody who has listened or watched for the last 100 episodes. We really, truly appreciate it. There's been many times where I have thought, and I think where maybe other people have thought, that like the number one reason why we continue to do it is because people listen and like the show. And kind of every time I've thought maybe nobody listens, maybe nobody checks it out, I just check the stats, talk to people, and you know what? They do. And so thank you so much for listening and for watching, because it really means everything. Thank you to Bobby and to Alan for being on the show with me 101 other times, and for being on the show with me today. I have been your host, Corbin, and this has been Essential Scares.
Play a million more breakdowns, baby.